Hello everyone, it's me again, Steedoj here, back to more Sparking Zero, and a lot of you ask, Steed, how do you land super attacks and ultimate attacks as easily as you do in your ranked videos? So that's what I'm gonna just go over now. So if you throw a super attack randomly, you can see that yes, it will never work, enemies can react to it. Most super attacks in the game have big cinematics, like you just saw. So the ways I would land super attacks, if you want to do it mid-combo especially, this is the easiest way to do it, is with two methods. The Tenkaichi free signature, which is through a heavy finish, and the new Sparking Zero method, which is just by finishing a lifting strike combo. Since super attacks bend in Sparking Zero, they actually always connect if you finish a lifting strike. So here is how you do heavy finishes, basically. It's part of your rush chain. You just want to find out where it is in the rush chain. And for Jiren, it's in his first two attacks, then he has the heavy finish. You could see how it stunts Cooler for a bit, and if I want, I can charge up this heavy finish to make it last far longer, which also allows me time to charge up and then do a super attack in case if I didn't have enough ki. And then the second method, which is obviously through the lifting strike. This is the easiest method by far because lifting strike is very spammable, and I think every character in the game has one, or at least most characters in the game have one. Not every character has a heavy finish. So as you can see, you finish lifting strike, the enemy is in really long stun. Prolefsky was mashing his recovery the whole time I even told him to, and he just couldn't get up from the ground. So yeah, it just takes forever to recover from a lifting strike, so most likely you can go for one, and the enemy will not recover in time. There's me just doing one now without the combo, and Prolefsky was able to mash his way out of it. But most of the time, when you put an enemy in this combination, they are not going to be able to mash enough before you drop a big super on them that does, yeah, 7k damage outright, and there was no way to defend against it. So these are just the two best ways to land super attacks in my opinion. There are more ways, but I want to talk about these two ones the most because I think they're the most effective and the most common. Always heavy finish if you can fully charge the heavy finish because it will break guard if the enemy does try to block it anyways. But if they don't block it, then you just get a massive stun that you can charge up ki and then do a super attack, or just throw a super attack right away. So I would... Prolefsky's the GOAT, so he just dodged that. What the hell? But I would say always try to charge it fully if you can before you drop your super attack. Because, again, you are launching a super from point-blank range, making it even harder to dodge than normal. Prolefsky is just really good at dodging, so he was able to avoid that one. But this is a projectile, so it has a different speed that he's not ready for. And as you can see, it landed square on, dead on, really easy. Now, I'm going to swap to other characters, obviously, because other characters will have other supers, and I can tell you how different supers work with these different guaranteed hit combos. The super you're also doing is really dependent too. Make sure your super attack actually bends. Here I'm using Piccolo End rather than Piccolo Early, because Piccolo Early Special Beam Cannon actually does not bend, it just goes in a straight line. But Piccolo Super Special Beam Cannon, or Piccolo End Special Beam Cannon, actually does track a little bit. So you can see how it bent down slightly to try and catch Prolefsky as he was falling down. And the same with the Cove, Light Grenades, etc, etc. So I think those are some really easy ways to generate super attacks. Another really easy way is that if you can get the, I think it's called the lightning finish or the lightning chain. Basically, anytime in your combination where you do this little animation here, you can usually super attack from that, but you have to be pretty high up. There's a weird awkward spot where if you're too close to the ground when you do it, not exactly hitting the ground, because if you're exactly hitting the ground, then you can get out like a melee super like right here, and the enemy would like have no way to avoid it. But like from certain heights especially, let's go up here. From certain heights especially, if you end this chain with the lightning finish or the lightning chain, I don't even remember what it's called, you can usually get a super attack off before the enemy hits the ground, and it should still curve far enough to actually hit them. There are very awkward times though where you can use the finish and the beam still misses, so make sure you are high enough when you execute that combination. Otherwise there's a good chance your move will just miss outright. Let's try it with, Thundershock Surprise. Thundershock Surprise is a very good super, as well as the supers that Yajirobe has available for doing a super attack chains. For example, Master Roshi has a heavy finish. He can do a heavy finish, and then you can chain that into Thundershock Surprise. Keep in mind, this is a 4-bar super attack, so it's a lot of ki. But this is the kind of super attack. Prolefsky, again, is just a gangster. He can dodge all of these things. This is the kind of super attack that doesn't actually have tracking. So if you are to use this in a combo, make sure you wait for the enemy to hit the ground first and then use it, because the recovery is so long that you can just wait for them to hit the ground first and then use it. And supers like this actually do hold down the enemy, meaning that after you execute this super, you can just charge ki, while it takes them ages to recover, right? Like it's taking Yajirobe before. I already have enough ki to do it again. So it takes a really long time to recover from certain moves in this game. Melee supers also have this. I don't think Jiren has any of these in his super, so maybe a bad example. But anytime you finish these combinations, wait for the enemy to touch the ground, then use the melee super, because you don't want the melee to whiff. So always wait for them to be closer to the ground, or for their path to be kind of linear, then go for it. And there's always enough time to charge up, because the knockback is really long on downed enemies. For some reason, if an enemy's on the ground as they take damage, the knockback just becomes really, 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 really long. That's something I've noticed, and I've seen a few people exploit it even against me, so keep that in mind when you're doing super attacks. It probably occurs for projectiles as well, so I'll go full power Jiren, and I'll show it. But anytime an enemy is basically lying flat on the ground, keep in mind, super attacks actually do less damage when enemies are lying flat on the ground, but it's the fact that you're even getting a super attack to begin with. So I'm launching this when as he touches the ground, and there's enough time to charge key, because look how long it took for him to get back up. So if an enemy's back touches the ground at any point, if they do a bounce animation, and you drop a super attack, then not only will it connect, but it will also keep them in a longer stun, which is really good. Again, this is something you can't get from a heavy finish. If I heavy finish Pro FC, then do the super attack, and he recovers like immediately, like he's already back. I didn't even get enough key to do another super attack. So always make sure the enemy is downed in some way when you land a super attack. The same occurs even if you use a lightning finish for it. I'm going to wait for Prolefsky to... Actually, if he deflects Ki Blast, he can get a skill counter back faster. That's also a really cool feature. So, even like any kind of like hard knockdown on your enemy, and you drop a super attack there, it'll take even longer for them to recover. So, let's see if we can get you your Senzu Bean back. This is an actual strat, by the way. Keep in mind, if someone's trying to spam Ki Blast on you, always deflect it, because look how fast the skill counter goes back up. That's another Steedoj tips and tricks for you guys. But yeah, anytime you can hit them with a hard knockdown and then drop a super on them, the super will always do less damage when it actually connects, but the enemy gets sent flying. It takes ages for them to get back up. I wanted to say, a faster way to recover is actually to hold the recovery buttons while you're pressing either X if you're touching the ground, or circle if you're just trying to like recover really quick, I guess. But it's not always the most effective way to recover. Sometimes you do want to recover, like let's say a super attack is flying at you as you're getting knocked back, right? And you want to dodge it at the exact moment it shows up. Holding the recovery button makes that a lot harder to do, so I'd still recommend tapping it if you can, to just keep an eye out for if anything's happening. Another method that I think is quite effective, especially if you're fighting people who are always doing this with super perception because they want to like get their parry so bad without having to actually block, is that you can use moves like Vanishing Strike or even a Perfect Smash, which I still didn't actually... Well, never mind, I just did it there. But even moves like a Perfect Smash, anything that gets you around an enemy's guard that has a pretty strong knockback, like a Vanishing Strike, you can always launch a super straight away from a Vanishing Strike. So that time I did the button inputs too fast, so I ended up just doing a regular melee hit. But anytime you land a Vanishing Strike, you can always see if you can drop a super there. Keep in mind, melee supers are more preferable in a lot of these instances, because melee supers have like they're like really hard to fight back against, I guess. It's like really hard to defend yourself from a melee super. But anytime you can land one of these strikes, it's always, as Prolefsky showing, it's always really easy to go for a super attack there. I know how to dodge it, thankfully, but it's always really easy to go for a super attack because the enemy has to take into account the timing of you reaching them and the timing of them being knocked back. And if they're mashing their recovery or they're holding the recovery button, they might recover sooner, and it would mess with their sense of timing for actually dodging your strike, and then they get hit anyways. So these are like a few things you want to keep in mind. Another really important way to land super attacks, make sure you're just paying attention to if the enemy themselves is going for a super. A good example is if I go for a beam super and it like Prolefsky just dodges it outright, he can just land his own super attack. Yeah, Droopy's a bit too fat to dodge Jiren's beam, but yeah, we'll go into this more in the next one. So yeah, we're gonna show it now. Prolefsky can go for minus power ball, and I'm pretty sure I can avoid this. It's not like the hardest ultimate to dodge. It's not DBZ Broly's ultimate, Jesus. So people will tend to either raw ultimate you if their character is really effective at doing that. That was really hard to dodge, but if you can escape it, you can always land your own move back. You could see how much time, because certain ultimate attacks take ages to end, right? Like minus power ball is one of them, ultra big bang Kamehameha, ultimate Kamehameha. It takes forever for the animation to actually finish, which gives you enough time to clap back if the enemy misses. Minus power ball was super hard to dodge though. I think that took 2 dodges, maybe 3, just to get around it. So that's a good move, but it's not DBZ Broly's ultimate. If it was DBZ Broly's ultimate, you'd probably have to vanish through it, because it's genuinely like so hard to get through that attack. Ki Blast is actually a really good way to land super attacks as well. A good example is Omega Shannon actually has the right Ki Blast type for this. If you use a charged Ki Blast, certain charged Ki Blasts can actually hold your enemy down if they hit. It's mostly the big slow orbs. Like yeah, if those hit at any point, you can get hit by like anything else in the game. Broly again, Z Broly is the best example of this. He has the version of this that if it hits, no matter what, his ultimate can connect from across the entire screen. So yeah, If you can get your charge ki blast to land on an enemy, you can basically always get the follow-up hit. For characters like Jiren, who I'm playing as now, it's a lot harder to do this because his charge ki blast is like a meteor. It's like a comet. It just heads straight to you. It doesn't really like hold you down at all. But if your enemy is not paying too much attention, like let's say your enemy's trying to charge up their ki or something, and you can quickly throw out some ki blast, if any of those hit, you might have enough time, just enough time, to get your super attack to connect. But again, Prolefsi's awake, so he's just deflecting ki blasts as they come his way. For the most part, if you're fighting someone online, though, they shouldn't be as fortunate. But always keep an eye open, actually. Full Power Jiren has a much faster super attack. If you can do anything that can hold your enemy down for even a bit, whether it be shooting normal ki blast or you have a charge ki blast that's like really good at like keeping up stun, the moment you see it connect or the enemy's deflecting it, you can throw out your super to chain and just see if that works out. Again, never try to throw out a super raw. Raw supers like literally like never work. Everyone's paying at least enough attention to avoid it. A good example is, well, Jiren actually has a good super attack, but if I go for a raw super here, Prolefsi can... yes, see, Jiren has a really good super attack. Prolefsi can avoid it for the most part, and then always clap back. Especially if you're using melee supers. I want to point out, if you're a character using melee supers, do not do raw supers, especially if they're melee supers. It literally never works ever. Everyone can react to a raw melee super. It's one dodge. They don't have that much tracking. They're super easy to avoid, so yeah, keep that in mind. After certain evasive options, I want to say if you can vanish through a strike, you can get a super attack out then as well. So I'm going to see if I can vanish through any of Prolefsi's attacks. Okay, it's gonna be a bit hard, but if we can find the right timing, there you go. If you can vanish through any strike, a super attack is guaranteed from them. Yeah. Oh, so Prolefsi just reminded me, Yajirobe's perception just holds down the perception, right? Yajirobe's perception is a heavy finish, and heavy finishes let you land super attacks. I remember when I said that earlier, so if he does a perception and I fall for it, he can just do a super attack right away from that point. And yeah, and again, I'm on the ground, so the recovery is about to be extra long. He did the full heavy finish combination, then ended with the super attack, and as you can see, I barely took any damage because, again, super attacks on the ground do way less damage, but he's got all of his ki back already. So always check. I know certain characters don't always have a heavy finish as their super perception. For example, I'm pretty sure base Goku does ki wave or flying kicks. So let's see it. Yeah, he does like a knockback punch, which I don't think is actually fast enough. Omega does a heavy finish though, as you can see. I do know there is a way to change what the input is on a perception, but I'm not too sure if it's form dependent or if it's because you have to do it in the middle of a combo. A good example is that if I do a perception on like a heavy strike, right, like what Prolefsi just did, where it was a charged punch attack, I get like I get the super perception, but this isn't a true stun. He can block immediately after I do that. So that means if I try to super him from here, it wouldn't work. So don't ever try to raw super from a super perception. Always see if your perception is something like a heavy finish or like a different animation. Because if you do a knockback, let's see, Prolefsi can just hit me now, I guess. And I try to super him. It's so telegraphed, right? You want to do it from a heavy finish because nothing else really gives you enough time. So always make sure your character is in the right form for that, I guess. I'm pretty sure Jiren, I think, has one, so then I can just land the super right away. He can still guard if he recovers fast enough, but that requires a lot of button mashing, which people aren't going to do on reaction to being countered. If people get countered, they're usually holding block or holding perception themselves, trying to find a window in your combo string, right? No one ever gets like hit with a heavy finish and starts mashing all their buttons to try and recover as fast as possible, right? So keep in mind, if you ever land a perception and it's a heavy finish, you can always just go, yep, landing my super right away, and they can't do too much about that because they're in big stun. That's the benefit to a heavy finish. But remember, if you're landing a heavy finish naturally in the middle of a combo, you want to always go for a fully charged one, and even if they manage to block it, it still breaks guard, so it has its benefits that way. Can I avoid that? Yes, I can. So yeah, if you can always avoid a super attack, you can punish with your own super, like I was able to show there. It's basically guaranteed, especially if someone's doing a melee super attack, because then they have nothing defending them. So that's always good. All right, let's see, Roshi, what is your charge ki blast? Ah, yes, it is an orb style one. Okay, so Roshi's kind of charge ki blast is slower, which would make it hard for me to actually show how you can tie these together into an inescapable combo. But at any point, if you can throw a charge ki blast and you see it about to connect, the enemy will either be trying to deflect it or block it. And if they're doing that, you can land an unblockable super like Thundershock Surprise again, because it's really good. Or if they actually do get hit by it, you might have just enough time to throw a beam super. Roshi's beams are kind of slow though, so I'm gonna see if this can even work. So it looks like he started blocking or deflecting. And yeah, he was able to block the charge ki blast. Let's see again. Yeah, so he can block the charge ki blast. But at any point, if you find an opening, let's say you're trying to just hold someone down with ki blast, you're doing the usual thing where you're just peppering them with ki blast, then you throw a charged one. If you're lucky enough, or if the enemy manages to see a gap, they try to use super perception there maybe instead, then you can always wait. Oh, you have to get really good at dodging super attacks. I promise you. You get so much reward out of it. If I had ki then, I would have just hit him with my ultimate. So actually, you know what? I feel like, let's see if we can dodge Yajirobe's ultimate attack. If we can, and we can land our own ultimate. Okay, that is a lot faster than I thought it'd be. All right, let's see. So there you go. If you can avoid any attack, melee attacks on reaction especially. Oh, Mafuba doesn't have the range. That's a really cool animation though. Mafuba doesn't have the range. And another benefit I want to talk about with dodging attacks is that if you feel like you're struggling with the timing, but you are picking a character that knows after image, like I just used now, you won't even have to dodge it. You can just let the after image do that for you. And then throw out your super attack when the enemy is still in Dreamlands trying to chase you. So there are a lot of high-end characters that have afterimage. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of characters who don't do a high-end. But Vegito, Super Vegito especially, is a good example. He has afterimage strike despite being a character as strong as he is. So he can always avoid it in a sense. It's just a rock, okay. And that'll be it. I wanted to get a live test, so that's why I'm fighting ProLFC for this, because it shows I can control better. I can control ProLFC better than I can control an AI for these, and he can also do things when I need him to. For example, super and ultimate attack, dodge supers, responds to attacks really quickly. So yeah, let me know if you like desire more of these actual demonstrations of it being used against a player, and let me know what else you'd like to see. That is landing supers and ultimate attacks. Again, melee supers, I would always recommend if you can, even though they do reduced damage, try and connect them after the enemies touch the ground, but only when their back is touching the ground, not when they, like, recover normally, right, on the ground. Always try and land it when their back's also, like, towards the ground, because even though it'll do less damage, you get more time to charge your own ki, and they're stuck in a really long recovery animation, meaning you can follow up with another super, or just have ki, and then they potentially don't have any ki, because they just finished getting out of a long struggle with you before they got hit with that super. So keep that in mind. I would always recommend melee supers, land them on the ground. It doesn't matter if it does less damage, you get all your ki back before they can even stand up. If you do find these tips helpful, by the way, do please leave a like on the video and subscribe, because it lets me know what you guys want to see. And also let me know in the comment section if there's anything else you're struggling to understand, because super attack connection is something that people have been asking me ages for, because they see me doing all of my ranked videos. So I'm now telling you how to use super attack. And that will be it. I do hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you enjoyed it, then obviously again, please leave a like on the video. Don't forget to subscribe, as it greatly supports the channel, and leave a comment down below as to what you'd like to see next, fellas. Love you all. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Take care, and peace.